Okay, next up, on the 15th, we played, this is my wife and I, we played Riftforce. This is a 2-player game. It's a lane battler, much like, and I'm saying these names because I am going to compare them, much like Radlands and Compile. Other 2-player games that are lane battlers. So in Riftforce, you have a row of cards in the middle that represent different zones, I think 5. And there's a couple over to the side where you keep score as well. But the 5 zones, I'm going to play cards on my side of those 5 zones. My opponent is going to play cards on their side of those 5 cards. And essentially what you're trying to do is control lanes where I have cards on one of my side and the opponent has no cards on their side. Because on my turn, I'm going to take one of 3 actions, and one of those actions is to essentially score the lanes. Any lanes where I have cards and my opponent does not, I get a Riftforce point. And then I move my scoring token. There's other ways to get Riftforce points. Every time you eliminate one of the opponent's cards, you get a Riftforce, and 1 or 2 other things. The turns are really straightforward and simple. You have a hand of cards, and you are either going to play 3 cards from your hand that match, up to 3, that match the number. And the numbers are basically 4 through 7, 4 through 6. Really, like 4. You have 4s, you have 5s, and you have 6s. I forget if there's 7s. And so they have a number, or they are of the same faction. So fire, for example, water, lightning, sand, I believe, time, right? There's all these cool, like, mystical, sci-fi, magic kind of factions. And so you have this hand of cards of those different factions and the different numbers. You can play 3 cards that are the same faction or 3 cards that are the same number. And you place them out in these different lanes, either all in the same lane or in 3 adjacent lanes. Then that's one action that you can do, is playing the cards. Or the second action you can do is activating cards, and you can activate 3 cards that are, I believe, of the same faction or the same number. Do I have that exactly right? It's at least close. And how you are activating them, now you reference, essentially. So you have fire, let's say in my deck I have fire, lightning, water, and sand. Well, on the side, I have a reference card for each of those. And it says every time you activate a fire character or card, here's what it does. And it's a very, 1 or 2 sentences, usually pretty straightforward. Or every time I activate a lightning, here's what it does, or thunder. That's the second action, and those actions are going to move things around on my side, move things around on your side, do damage to things on your side, hopefully killing them, giving me rift points, and opening up the lane so that you have no one there and I have characters on my side, where I'm going to get rift points when I take the third action, which is to score and essentially redraw my hand of cards. That's it. Those are the 3 actions. So at the start of the game, to set up the game, of the 8 or 10 factions that come in the base box, and then there's another 4 or 6 in the expansion called Beyond, you're essentially choosing or drafting 4 each player. And you take all the cards for those 4 factions and you shuffle them all up. So you get all the fire, lightning, whatever I said, water, sand. Let's say that those were mine. I take all the decks of those, I shuffle them all together. That is my deck for the game. My opponent chose a different set of 4 factions. They shuffle theirs together, and that's what we're drawing from and activating. That is really it. So each of the cards themselves have no writing other than the number and the faction that they're from. There's no special abilities. All the cards are essentially the same, except for the number and the faction that they're from. So, it's a very easy lane battler. It is pretty. I like this style of sci-fi magic. It's the best way that I'm going to put it. It's easy to teach, easy to learn. It takes under half an hour to play. fiddly-factor, it's got low setup fiddly-factor. It's not none, because it does have the whole, you have to separate out these decks of the different factions and then figure out which 4 I'm going to play, which ones you're going to play, and then we shuffle those together. And the gameplay fiddly-factor is also low, but not none. The fiddliness there would come in, okay, I want to activate my, oh, I remember now, that's right. That second action where I'm going to activate cards, I have to choose a card from my hand, play it, like discard it essentially. Whatever card that is a number in a faction, right? So that is saying I can either activate 3 of that faction or 3 of that number. So if it was a 4 fire, then that means I can activate 3 4s or 3 fires. Okay, so that was that. In any case, when you activate, you do have to reference those cards on the side. Now, eventually you're just going to know them. You're going to know how fire works every single time. But usually each of these factions have like 2 parts to their, like when the cards activate, there's kind of 2 parts. First you do this, maybe it's moving, and then you do this, doing damage. Or maybe you can somehow capture a card if you end up doing enough damage to it, and it comes over to your side. A lot of times the cards, actually probably almost always, anytime it does damage, it says it will damage either the first or the last opponent's card in the lane. What that means is first would be the first one that they had played there, because I can play multiple cards to the same lane. They kind of stack up, and the first one is here, then the second one goes partially overlapping it, then the third one partially overlapping it. And so when you're damaging the opponent, you might damage the first one that they played there, which is the one that's kind of closest to the top, closest to the lane cards or the zones, or the last one, which is the one furthest from the zones. In any case, it's light fiddliness, but not bad at all. Pimp out potential, I would say the expansion here, if you call that pimping it out, the expansion is called Beyond, and it really adds exponentially to the game. Just adding those extra factions has that many more permutations of a cool, like, combined deck that I'm going to play for a particular game. It also adds team mode and modes for like 3 players, 4 players. Maybe it even added solo, which I don't generally care about. I'm less excited about the team, and like, to me this is kind of meant to be a 2-player game, much like if Radlands came out with a 3 or 4 player or a team mode or something. I'd probably try it. I'd probably say like, oh, that sounds cool, and then be like, yeah, it's not really how the game was meant to be. I kind of feel like that about this. Other than that, there's really nothing to pimp out here. It's cards, and they're really nice. So with that, my score for Riftforce is a 7.5. It is another one that I will keep and enjoy. It's another variety that we add to our collection of similar games. Now, would you need to have this if you already have Compile or Radlands or both? I would say no. There's no, like, they are very similar experiences, these lane battlers. Of course, they each bring their own flavor and their own mechanisms, but by and large, they are similar game models. For me, Compile is an 8 and Radlands is a 9. So Riftforce is not quite at that same level at the 7.5, but still very enjoyable, and I will keep it to have the variety living alongside the other 2.